Oh, thank you. So for configure orchestration, there's two main strands here. There's Auto DevOps and Kubernetes management. Probably we'll start with Kubernetes management because you basically start from there. Actually, we can start with Auto DevOps because it's really part of it. And then, so basically with Auto DevOps, as I was explaining, it's a set of pipelines that allow you to build, test, do all these things, right? And the first requirement is Kubernetes. And then the second requirement as part of that is you need to install an ingress, specifically Nginx. Nginx is an ingress controller. So to kind of make that easier for people, we provide one-click installs. And that's where Kubernetes management comes in. So in terms of the one-click install stuff, there's two parts to this. So we have in the GitLab, the main GitLab repository. So that's the big project. And this is where currently the Kubernetes management lives. So if we go into find file, a lot of our orchestration classes is under the clusters namespace. So if you search for cluster, it's kind of there. And what we really want is clusters platform Kubernetes, is it? No, this one. This is the EE edition. Clusters applications. Yeah, clusters applications. So we want that one, and we want ingress. So to install, there is a one-click thing where you can one-click install. So I'll just quickly show you how it looks like. So I have a project set up here. It's already got a Kubernetes cluster attached. And then we go operations Kubernetes. Here I have a cluster. And yeah, so you can click install, uninstall. First you have to install Helm Tiller, and then you can install the rest. So this is kind of one click, and it's very limited. You can only configure maybe 1 or 0 things about it. Oh, there's 2 things here. Okay, that's fine. But because of the limited customization, and for example, GitLab Runner, you actually can customize a lot of things about GitLab Runner. Say it's concurrency. What else? You can configure whether it can auto-scale or not, especially in a Kubernetes setting. But as you can see here, there is no such thing for you to install, to customize. So, it's really hard. So one of the things that we're doing, we have a project right now, which is cluster applications. This is in my book talks, by the way. But we should document this at some point, like all these different projects. So this cluster applications is basically a Docker image that uses Helm file. Have you used Helm file before?
I have used Helm before, yes.
Okay, cool. So Helm file it's basically a project that uses that shells out the Helm to install all the different Helm applications declaratively. So a Helm file looks a bit like this. So just a bunch of YAML with you can put values to your Helm file, which is nice, and can control that. So the whole purpose of this project, this cluster applications project, is to enable you to because this one click currently is installing all the Helm applications using Ruby. And when you say click install or whatever on this, if you get an error, it's really hard to show you anything because of SSRF and things like that. So we have to ask people to manually go check the port logs, which is really hard to see. And you can customize it as well. So, and I don't know what's happening here as well. So the idea is that instead of doing that, what we do is we use that cluster applications project, which is a Docker image, and then we have it as a template. So with GitLab CI, you can have templates. It basically just saying use this image and then run this binary to install these applications. And then what we've done is that you can define some config. So you can say, I want ingress install. So this is just some custom YAML that we created for that. So we can say install true or false. You can say whether you want a default cluster issuer or not. So that's something basic that eventually runs as a pipeline. So if I show you an output, so this gives you like the complete output of what gets installed, the resources that's been installed. And because it's run in GitLab CI, you can run anything because it's all isolated. So that's kind of the advantage as well. I'm missing something here. Oh yes. So it also allows you to customize things. So you can give it, by convention, yes, you can sort of have a values YAML to say, I want some custom value. So I want, because the default is replica count 1, and then I want more replicas, for example. That makes sense?
Yep.
Feel free to jump in with any questions. So that's one project. Should probably, I think I already typed it out in the team meeting, so we can copy that for all the list of projects. Not sure if it's in that. So that's Kubernetes management, basically. And I think you might have seen maybe some issues this milestone or the next milestone is creating the templates, the Helm file templates for it. And then we can, the idea is that we want to keep this interface, but in the backend, swap out the Ruby with CI-based Helm file installs. So that's that. So that's the part. And the part that relates out to DevOps is that because we want ingress, we require ingress, Nginx actually, so we give you an easy one-click install. You don't have to use Auto DevOps if you do this. You can just click, and, just for your convenience. Or some people, they want monitoring for their clusters, so they click install post Prometheus instead, or Jupyter Hub. Utterly unrelated to Auto DevOps, if that makes sense. Okay, and then we come to Auto DevOps. This is a user level documentation for Auto DevOps, which is kind of useful to try out at some point, but you already had the demo, so I won't go through the demo again. There's another document about Auto DevOps, which probably is more useful. It's the Auto DevOps development guide. And so Auto DevOps is a GitLab CI file. Have you used GitLab CI before?
No.
Okay. But you use sort of maybe Jenkins or other things?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Jenkins file or the old Groovy?
Oh, Travis mostly.
Travis. Yeah, Travis.ci YAML. Yeah. it's very similar to that, right? So you can have all those options. It's very similar options. So what AutoDevOps is a template of a GitLab CI that gets provided with each GitLab release. And the important distinction, there's many templates, by the way. So there's a lot of different templates. And they're just there for examples and whatnot. But the difference with AutoDevOps is that there is a piece of code inside GitLab that says that if you don't specify a GitLab CI YAML, this one will be implicitly used instead. Now, it's not fully enabled yet on GitLab.com, but for self-managed installs, it is enabled. And I'm working to progressively enable that for GitLab.com. I think we're at 20% of projects right now. Yeah, as I was saying, this is the script that allows you to, it has many stages, and you'll notice here that it has many kind of sub-templates that we do. And in sub-templates, let's go look inside templates. Templates. It says my internet is unstable, probably why it's getting slow. I have it open here. Jobs. So the two key ones are build and deploy. This explains it really well as well. It's the same. So if we start from build, it used to be that it was one giant script, and then we started splitting it up, and then we started shifting some of the functionality into the Docker image as well. So that's why we have different projects. So for the build stage, what's happening here is it builds out a Docker image from source, and how it achieves that is it leverages a open source project called Heroku-ish. You used Heroku before, right? So I think.
Well, I've built something like Heroku, so
Yeah,
I think I more or less know how it works.
Yeah. So, and Heroku has all these open source build packs. So we just detect it, and then we just use the build pack that's suitable for that language and that framework. And this is the project that does it basically. So, and basically what it does is that it has a very simple script to detect whether you have a Docker file. If you have a Docker file, use that Docker file. If you don't have the Docker file, then use Heroku-ish to do that. And then finally, we kind of publish a container image to use in this template. And then this is just some scripts to say this is where the generated the built Docker image will be for that application, right? So that's build. And then now that we have something to build, we can then test and things like that as well. There's lots of different sub-templates, but we can explore that later. The more interesting bit is deploying things. So this deploying thing is conditional on that you have a Kubernetes cluster attached to your project. If you don't have it, then none of these jobs will run. So this kind of limits AutoDevOps to only Kubernetes, but we may extend it to Fargate or whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of future plans. So what this thing does is also, again, there's a very similar pattern. There's a separate project which builds this image that the CI job runs on. And if we go to that, so currently it's this giant bash script. And this is auto deploy image, by the way. Currently it's this giant bash script that all of this used to be in the GitLab CI YAML. And what I did is basically I just extracted it and maybe tidied up some of the bash functions, and then I added unit tests, so to speak, for each function, bash function. And it's great because we previously didn't have any unit tests, which made the whole development cycle very tough because every time you change something, you have to run the whole pipeline, which could take about 20 minutes, depending on what you're building. Most of the time is spent uploading and downloading big container images because your Kubernetes cluster is far away or something like that. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, so basically this one uses Helm to deploy stuff, and we need a chart then because most projects, because we built some source, and most projects wouldn't. A lot of people wouldn't even know what Helm is. Okay, they know they want to use Kubernetes, for example. So we provided an example, a typical chart that's assumes port 5000 and assumes that you're a web app where you need an ingress and you need a database, basically. So where is auto deploy app? I should link to this in here. There we go. That's the Helm chart. So the Helm chart is called auto deploy app. So this page, you can bookmark this page. It has all the links to all the different projects. So this is the auto deploy app, which is the project for the Helm chart. And it's got very generic templates for deployment, ingress, and it's got it's got workers as well, which is good, and it's got a dependency on Postgres. So it's got a Postgres. It's got a sub Postgres Helm as well, and because it's so generic, we have a lot of options, but we try to not have too many options. What we do instead is that we encourage that if you have more special needs for your applications or any kind of needs that is not covered by this, then instead of making this more and more generic and more options, we try to say, okay, you have the option of just specifying a different chart. Try and use your own chart instead, and the auto deploy app allows you to do that somewhere in here. Oh no, somewhere in here. Sorry. Yeah. So you can specify a different chart, either by URL or the chart name. Yeah. Or even a file. Yeah. So I think those are the different images. Have you got any questions so far?
I'm just trying to understand the overall structure.
Mm-hmm.
So let me try to kind of explain what you just said.
Yep.
To see if I understood it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the image that has the detection logic of which language something is written in.
Yes.
Then it uses the Helm chart that is a generic Helm chart, and it uses Helm to deploy that chart using with the Docker image that has been built using the build packs from Heroku.
Yep.
That's it, right?
Yeah, that's it basically. Yeah, it's not very. I mean, it's got 4 or 5 steps. But yeah, let's try and write it down, shall we? Edit this page. So I don't know whether there's the best way to write it, but kind of the overflow is we have the source, right, of the project or the application. And if the source has a .gitlab .ci.yaml, then it's very normal. Then GitLab CI will use that, right? So then that becomes GitLab CI. Then there's nothing to do. Well, it's not configured. It's more the random team, right? But if not, then Auto DevOps gets used instead. Auto DevOps CI. I call it a CI template. You know what I mean? And what happens is that we use Heroku to detect the language and framework, and Heroku will find the build pack / Docker image. Oh no, build from source, right? Oh, I skipped a step here. If has Docker file, Auto DevOps will use that to build, right? And then this logic is contained in the project. So that's one. So this is the main GitLab project. And then Heroku is still the auto DevOps stuff. And then what we do is, push the build, image to GitLab container registry. So GitLab has a container registry. Might as well, because most of the time you'll be building in GitLab, and it's probably the closest container registry to push to, rather than say Docker Hub or something else. So far, it might be possible to build an option into Auto DevOps to do that, but there hasn't been that demand for it really. And then we can, in other subtemplates, we can run tests. What else? License scanning, code quality, etc. Like there's a lot of different things, but those are just very simple templates, CI templates. Then deploy. So the first thing is, if there is a Kubernetes cluster attached to the project, then we deploy. So the logic for deploying is contained in how to deploy image project. Which is all bash. And also we have to use the chart, right? So we use the auto deploy app chart to deploy the image to Kubernetes. Sub point is that users can also customize to use the own chart. What is chart? Project is a project, got it? Yeah, so and then once it's deployed, that's it really. So that's how Auto DevOps works on a really high level flow. That makes sense. Oh yeah, this, and then we can talk about. Do you want to talk about a little bit about how the ingress works? Not sure. That might be getting into too much detail for today. Yeah, so just to round things off quickly, the only reason why we need Nginx controller is because we have said Nginx here, I think somewhere. Huh, where is it? I thought we did. Huh, class. Or is it service? I don't know, actually somewhere. Lost my mind. Huh, it's not there. I thought we did. Ah, I'm mistaken then. There was something that said. That's the class. That's the annotations. Oh, maybe it's in the values. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, see, we specifically hard code that only Nginx controllers can use this ingress. Yeah, I can't think of anything else really. Let me think, can say anything else? Any other projects? Yeah, not really. I think we mentioned all of it. Do you have any other questions? Thoughts?
No, I don't at the moment.
Cool.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, thanks. Let's stop my screen share.